Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to today's Crypto Blast with myself and Cam from Institutional Fi, where Cam will be giving us a rapid fire update on the latest pricing flows and market moving news in crypto markets. But before he does, I'll get the legals out of the way. Nothing discussed on this space session constitute trading or investment advice or infers any kind of endorsement by PIQ, Institutional Fi, myself, Ryan Paisley, or indeed Cam. Cam, how are you, my dear friend?
I'm very, very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm not too bad. Well, I say I'm not too bad. I was in a field on Saturday, and I was in another field on Sunday. One for a wedding, one for a gig. And I feel one of these summer colds has caught me, and I feel like I'm a bit shitty, to be honest. But anyway, enough. No one wants to hear about me and my illnesses. What's been going on in crypto markets?
Was he lost? That's what I want to
No, no,
know.
no. Never lost, mate. Never lost. I know exactly where I'm going. It just might take me some time.
Yeah, exactly that. Follow the heart map. Follow the heart
Yeah,
map.
yeah.
Um, yeah, let's jump into the crypto markets. So let's starting off with the broader look over the crypto sector. Market conditions look slightly different at the end of August compared to what they looked like in the middle of the month. Just under $500 billion has left the entire crypto sector since the 14th of this month. That figure looks slightly less painful today as buyers entered back into the markets yesterday to bring the total crypto market cap up to $3.8 trillion. After only managing to end the day green 4 times in the second half of this month, Bitcoin finds itself in a battle to reclaim its previous monthly support of $111,850. BTC is currently trading at 111K ahead of the US trading session open.
So we do have to mention, and again, and we do mention this quite a bit now, that even though it's been a bit of a dire second half of the month, we're still above that key 100 level, which when you think about it,
Absolutely.
take a step back, this is still very, very positive.
With some margin as well.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, then moving on to Ethereum's monthly performance, it looks completely different to how BTC does so far. Instead of being red, ETH is actually up 24% on the month after a wave of Ethereum Treasury adoption. And as we will cover in a moment, the purchasing for Ether Treasuries doesn't seem to be over just yet. On Sunday, Ethereum made a new all-time high, reaching $5,000 according to some exchanges. However, after following suit with the rest of the crypto sector, it did start to see some outflows. However, on a positive spin, ETH sits just 7% away from its all-time high that was recorded on Sunday. So again, a massive, massive monster month it has been for Ethereum. And no doubt this has been led by, treasury adoption. And as we'll cover in just 2 moments, time, the Ethereum side of things the ETF side of things has also been a massive, massive increase. We'll cover that right now. From August 18th to the 22nd, Bitcoin spot ETFs recorded a net outflow of $1.1 billion last week, led by BlackRock's IBIT with $615 million in outflows. Ethereum spot ETFs saw net outflows, however, much less than BTC, only $238 million left the ETFs for Ethereum last week. This did end the 14-week streak of net inflows. So far this week, flows for BTC have been quite positive, with over $300 million flowing into the Bitcoin products. However, this pales into comparison to the Ethereum products, seeing over $898 million pour in week to date alone. So, the demand for Ethereum at the moment is definitely outpacing the demand for Bitcoin. Actually, let's just jump over. Something I didn't write down on my notes was the current prices, but they're all in front of me at the moment. If we look down the,
Panic.
I was like, oh no, what did I do wrong? Oh dear. Anyway, we'll jump back across to it. So if we look down the market cap list for the crypto sector, XRP coming in at $2.99, BNB at $859. Absolutely massive. It was only just a month ago we were talking about, sub $800 BNB and even closer to $600. It was only a month and a half ago. So massive rally for BNB. More to follow on BNB stories in the coming moments. Solana at $205, managing to cross over that $200 barrier. And I tell you what, in fact, let's not hint into it. Let's jump straight into the news and we'll talk about Solana in just a moment's time. Probably one of the biggest stories to come out over the last 24 hours, to do with crypto or the blockchain space in particular, was that the US Commerce Department will put GDP data on the blockchain. And this came from the lips of Howard Lutnick. Federal agencies aim to modernize data sharing and transparency by leveraging blockchain for official economic releases. The Department of Commerce is going to start issuing its statistics on the blockchain, said Lutnick in a wide-ranging address that touched not only on this particular issue, but on tariffs, semiconductors, patents, and trade deals. Lutnick said that we're going to make that available to the entire government so all of you can do it, said Lutnick. He noted that officials are just ironing out all of the details to implement the program. The move would mark one of the first major implementations of blockchain technology for US government economic reporting. Now, a lot of questions are
Well,
then thrown up.
yeah, I've got one.
Yeah,
So as
go on.
myself and Mr. Michael Brown mentioned on this morning's Morning Blast, I would much prefer, I think we would all much prefer that Lutnick was putting emphasis on getting the data correct in the first place, because the BLS, etc., they've got huge problems with the quality of their data. So it does kind of feel like, let's just get the data kind of sorted and accurate before we start doing weird and magical things about sticking it on the blockchain. It does feel like this is more of a just a very cheap trick to make the administration look like they're doing stuff, proactively, when the bigger concern is how poor US data is at the moment. And when I say poor, I don't mean, as in negative for the economy. I mean the quality of the data is poor. Like when you've got, NFP revisions to the tunes of hundreds of thousands every month, millions every time they do it, like every 6 months or something. Something's clearly not right with how the US is gathering this official data in the first place. So personally, maybe I'm just a bit old tradfi, but I'd much prefer the quality of the data to be more accurate before we start doing things like that. But that's just me.
No, yeah, absolutely. And it's all fine and dandy if you're improving the ability to read the data. But like you said, the quality there needs to be bolstered up a little bit more. So obviously I'm going to be on the side of the blockchain.
Of course.
It should help to expose the faults and the areas of which need improving. Um, but again, there was nothing more has been mentioned
Well, see,
on how they're going to be
I disagree
implementing
with you there.
this.
I disagree with you there
Go on.
because
Yeah, yeah.
it's the quality of the gathering of the data that is the issue. Okay. So when they put the data onto the blockchain, I failed to see how people are going to gather from that or gain from that where the issues are with how the data is being collected. Because it's the methodology, it's the actual going out there and getting this data in the first place that we're having severe issues with. I honestly, yes, it's great that it's on there, and you know what, it's going to be on there eventually. So why not do it now? You've got nothing better to do, seemingly. But I think it's at the moment it does feel like it's shit in, shit out, because at the moment the data is shit. And I don't mean that in terms of negative numbers. I mean just the quality of the data is shit. It's, you can't believe half of it because you know this for a fact by all the revisions we're getting months down the line. So for me, I prefer Lutnick to be focusing on trying to shake up the data gathering and the methodologies behind this data, fix that problem first, then put it on the blockchain. But we all know that Trump and Trump's administration are just looking for, every week they want some kind of bullish crypto headline, and that seems all they care about at the moment. I'm not saying that's a bad thing because I'm long crypto, but there we go.
Yeah, no, exactly that. I would like to see how they're going to implement it and, what improvements they're going to set out to improve in the coming future. So yeah, something to pay close attention to, I'm sure. And it's something that doesn't just affect, I don't really see its major impact in the crypto space, but it is definitely going to be, traditional market impacting if they, are going to expose all the flaws of the current data in which it sits. So something to pay close attention to, I'm sure. According to the FT, the US Genius stablecoin law caught the EU off guard, and it pushed them being the ECB, to speed up its digital euro plans and consider issuing it on public blockchains like Ethereum or Solana instead of the previously favored closed centralized system that they were going to build. Moving over to China, China Renaissance announced a strategic cooperation memorandum with Yeezy Labs. The company will invest approximately $100 million in dedicated allocation of B&B assets The company intends to become the first Hong Kong listed company to include BNB, which is the native token to Binance, in its dedicated digital asset allocation and promote BNB listings on regulated exchanges. So some positive news coming for BNB there. Coinbase says that North Korean IT workers are targeting Coinbase, and it's making mandatory in-person training, requiring all employees to travel to the United States for on-site training, and that anyone with access to sensitive systems must have US citizenship and undergo fingerprinting. So they're, trying to obviously, after that recent hack that they had earlier this year, trying to improve their security systems.
But do you want these kind of people having your fingerprint data?
I'll leave that to the people who are
There you go.
signing up to work for Coinbase. I suppose it's better than the World Coin who's scanning your
Well,
irises. We'll put it that way.
but that's exactly where my mind went. It's like, I don't really, your biometric data at some point will be literally the only data that you have any control over. So, I'm one of these people that, I don't care about being on Twitter. I don't care about all this. I don't care. People know my real name. People know where I drink most Fridays, etc., etc. I don't really care about any of that. And people get a bit too ridiculous when it comes to protecting kind of online data in the sense of, I'm not going to use that app, or I'm not going to use Apple because they monitor what I'm doing. It's like, look, if you're online, if you're on Twitter, anyone listens to this, you're already giving away as much as you can anyway. But one thing I am quite protective of is things like biometric data and stuff like that. It's why I've never understood people that go onto like this 23andMe and all these genealogy sites where you send in your DNA. It's just ridiculous in my eyes to be doing that kind of thing. But anything that requests my biometric data, I'm always a bit about. And that goes for Bloomberg as well. I wasn't happy when I used to have to give my fingerprints over to Bloomberg for access to the keyboards, etc. But again, that's just me.
I think a lot of people share that same sentiment. So moving on, World Liberty Finance announced that its token will launch on the Ethereum mainnet with 20% of allocation for early supporters becoming claimable starting September 1st at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard. The unlock of the remaining 80% will be determined through a community governance vote. If it's anything like the previous vote, I'm not sure the community has much to say on it. Asset managers, including Grayscale, Bitwise, Canary, CoinShares, Franklin, Templeton, 21 Shares, WisdomTree filed for an amendment of their S1 for registrations for an XRP ETF, adjusting structures to allow XRP or cash creations and cash or in-kind redemptions. Bloomberg ETF analyst James Seifert said that these updates were almost certainly due to SEC feedback, calling it a good sign to expect an approved XRP spot ETF in the coming future. I think the next deadline is October, so one to pay attention to for an XRP ETF there. According to Bloomberg, Galaxy Digital, Multicoin Capital and Jump Crypto are in talks with the potential backers to raise about $1 billion to acquire Solana, which would mark the largest treasury dedicated to the token. Cantor Fitzgerald is acting as the lead banker for the deal. Again, so this is kind of what we hinted to earlier in terms of Solana and its recent price movements. This isn't the only Solana treasury news that's going to be popping up. In fact, I'll wrap through them and then share my thoughts on them in a moment. So that was the one with Galaxy Digital, Multicoin and Jump Crypto. This one leans into Harps Technology, which is on the Nasdaq with the ticker STSS, completed a $400 million pipe financing to build the world's largest Solana treasury with investors, including Power Financial, Pantera and Monarch. It signed an MOU with the Solana Foundation to buy $50 million SOL at a 15% discount. And according to the information, again, Pantera plans to raise up to $1.2 billion to transform a publicly traded company into a Solana investment vehicle, potentially becoming the largest Solana-focused treasury firm to date. So there go a few news stories coming in to do with Solana treasury vehicles, much like we saw with Bitcoin. Then we saw with Ethereum. We saw Ethereum's price rally over 200% once it started gathering adoption from the treasury side of things. Solana's been battling with $200 resistance recently. It's just kind of flip-flopping between 210, dropping back down to around 170. And now off of this news is just sort of catch a little bit of a bid, up 13% over the last 7 days. That's the highest performing crypto asset over the last 7 days, which is Solana at 13%. The next one is Ethereum at 9%. So, obviously we don't share out investment advice at all on this platform, but it would be keeping a close eye on Solana over the next couple of weeks if these Solana treasury companies start to come to fruition. Grayscale Investments has submitted to the SEC an S1 registration statement to launch the Grayscale Avalanche Trust. So that's the ticker AVAX, the crypto token AVAX, aiming to list it on the Nasdaq. The trust seeks to track the price performance of AVAX, with Coinbase Custody serving as the custodian and Coinbase Incorporated acting as the prime broker. And a bit of a warning, US banking groups, including the American Bankers Association and Bank Policy Institute, are pushing to amend the recently passed Genius Act, warning that in its current structure, it creates a loophole allowing crypto exchanges to indirectly offer interest-bearing rewards to stablecoin holders. They argue that this could trigger as much as the $6.6 trillion in deposit outflows. That's kind of a worst case scenario that they're pointing to. But if you do go on to something like Coinbase at the moment and you simply have USDC on there, you do automatically have an APY of over 4%, without staking it, without locking your funds up, for any period of time, just for simply having USDC on the exchange. You can generate over 4% APY. So I can understand their concerns there. Bitcoin Immersions announced that its crypto and cash holdings reached $8.8 billion, including 1.7 million ETH, making it the largest Ethereum treasury globally and the second largest crypto treasury after Strategy. The company added over 190,000 ETH last week, boosting their holdings by $2.2 billion. Sticking with the Ethereum treasury narrative, ETHZilla, again, stupid name, approved a 250 million share repurchase plan and revealed holdings of over 102,000 ETH, worth $489 million. SharpLink announced the acquisition of over 56,000 ETH at an average price of 4,400 per token. Their holdings are astronomical. Again, so SharpLink hold over $3.7 billion in ETH to date, I believe that is. Moving away from ETH treasuries and not too far away, but to BTC, Strategy has acquired an additional $356 million in BTC. The big figures to pay attention to, they now hold $56.5 billion worth of Bitcoin at an average purchase price of $73,527. According to the block, digital asset-focused investment firm B Strategy announced plans to launch a Nasdaq-listed BNB treasury company targeting a $1 billion raise. B Strategy will receive strategic support from Yeezy Labs and is expected to be completed within a few weeks. So more purchases of BNB to come in the near future, by the sounds of it. The exchange Webull has reopened its cryptocurrency trading services in the US for their US customers. That started 2 days ago, August 25th. Canary Capital filed with the SEC for the Canary American-made crypto ETF. The ticker will be MRCA. They're going to be listed on the COBE. The fund will focus on crypto assets that developed, mined, or operated in the US.
Oh, I see what they've done there. I see why they've used Canary. Okay, I get that now. Yep, fine.
Right. The idiocy doesn't stop there. They did also file for a state injective ETF. They also filed for a Trump coin ETF in case the craziness didn't stop there. No doubt that this is classified as high risk.
Yeah.
You didn't need to add that on there, but anyway, we did. So according to Reuters via PIQ Suite, never heard of them, joking. The World Federation of Exchange, WFE, has urged regulators, including the US SEC, ESMA, and the ISCO, to tighten oversight over tokenized stocks, warning that these products mimic equities without offering shareholder rights or market safeguards, potentially harming investors and undermining market integrity. Is another big story of yesterday. Trump Media, Crypto.com, and Yorkville will form Trump Media Group CRO Strategy Incorporated. So these names are getting longer and longer. With $6.4 billion to build a CRO treasury. CRO is the native token of Crypto.com, which is the Kronos chain. Kronos jumped 26% after the announcement. Note that CRO has a $6.6 billion market cap. The treasury composition includes $1 billion in CRO tokens, which represents 19% of the supply, $200 million in cash, $220 million in warrants, and $5 billion equity credit line for more CRO purchases. It's actually quite a modest move, especially for something which doesn't have necessarily the largest market cap in the crypto space. On announcement of a purchase of 19% of the supply to only move 26%. Typically, obviously, you see quite drastic reactions in the crypto space. So, if you look at previous price movements, it's not typically an overreaction. I was quite surprised at that one. MetaMask now supports social logging. What is that, you ask? Well, it lets users create and recover self-custody wallets via Google or Apple accounts. I actually worked with a company, I'm not going to name them, to incorporate this a few years back. Just lowers the barrier to entry. You know, you can provide the user with education later down the line on,
Do you know what?
in proper self-custody, but yeah.
We enabled social logins on PIQ a little while ago, and when we had a meeting about it, I was like, "Is this really going to move the dial at all?" But the sign up since we've done that have like gone vertical because it's just such an easy way for people to log in and to sign up. So it really does make a difference.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. So it's lowering that barrier to entry once again. One of the final stories from me, according to Bloomberg, crowdsourced quant fund Numerai has secured a commitment of up to $500 million from JP Morgan Asset Management to be deployed over the next year. Backed by Paul Tudor Jones, the fund manages around $450 million and uses its native token, Numerai, which is NMR, to incentivize freelance quantitatives worldwide to submit stock trading models and stake predictions. And lastly, a massive announcement coming from Google. Google Cloud has announced the launch of its Layer 1 blockchain, the Google Cloud Universal Ledger, which simplifies cross-border payments and asset settlements through a distributed ledger. GCUL is currently in a private testnet. And we announced just a few months ago that they announced a partnership with CME Group earlier this year to pilot tokenized assets. Spit it out. It's the last story, Cam. Come on, don't drop the ball now. To pilot tokenized assets. So it looks like that pilot seems to be going quite well as they've announced the release of its layer 1 blockchain there. So positive news. As we're coming to the end of August, it's, you know, seasonality trends. If you believe in them, if you follow them, it historically shows September not to be the most positive month for Bitcoin and the crypto sector. In fact, it's the highest outflow recorded month if you go back over 10 years. So we could be expecting quite a bit more volatility to follow through the end of this month and into next month. So just a word of caution as always, if you are an active trader. But that's going to be it from me.
Good stuff, Cam. Good stuff. Great stuff. Great update. Thank you very much. Listeners, thank you as always, especially all of you that replay this back. Cam, you need to send me the bullets so I can get this sent over to the guys to put this up on the socials and stuff. Cam, thank you so much as usual. An absolute star. Whatever you're doing, however you're trading, whatever you're doing, not even away from trading, stay safe, keep it tight, and we'll see you all on Friday. Much love.
See you then.